All right, today for the content, we're going over the free arm care program that I put out a little while ago. So let's get right into it. Right after throwing, a lot of people make this mistake, in my opinion. They want to go do recovery and get better. But, dude, chances are you just threw hard. What adaptation could you get that you didn't already get? Just vibe. You did the thing. That is the most intense stimulus you could possibly get in doing anything. You just grounded your CNS into the ground like it's done. Bro, just chill. Your little scap things aren't going to make the difference in if your arm's sore or not. It's not. If anything, do them the next day or the day after. That actually might do something because there's not intense stimulus beforehand. What could we possibly do that the body hasn't already done? Nothing. So just chill. You don't need to do anything. You just pitched. Okay? But before throwing, that's a completely different story. So the day before, the goal is to just potentially eliminate any soreness that remains and potentiate for the next day. So what we're going to do is we're going to check on range of motion with these rapid reps. So all these rapid reps are just movements through ranges of motion as quickly as possible. All right? And it shouldn't be that many reps where you go and get gassed. And so it's just 20 reps each, and then we're going through twice. And if you get gassed and blown up by, originally this was actually like 200. That's the volume that I had on it, which seems ridiculous, but like if you can't do 200 reps in one day and then be gassed, like something might be wrong with your shoulder. Like you might not be ready for a lot of high intent volume, which could be a problem. But at the same time, like this is not an individualized program. You got to find out what makes you feel good. Like I respond well to a lot of volume, so I had a lot of volume in this initially. The rebounds are the same idea, except we're just working a little bit more elastic by creating a collision in all these ranges of motion. So an external collision right here with the plyo, and we're just checking up and making sure and potentiating by moving fast. And with any of these ranges of motion, if any of them are sore or you're not moving as well or as fast as you would like, you can play around with this and try to figure out what you need to do to get ready for the next day. So, oh my gosh, this lateral raise is sore. I'm a big 100, 200 reps guy. You might need to cruise in those ranges of motion and figure out what's going wrong, what muscle isn't functioning correctly for you to perform optimally. Either roll it out, do something to strengthen it next week, or this is a long-term thing. This isn't a quick fix. You might need to figure out what long-term things you could do so some of these problems go away. Okay, so this is a check-in day before, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're ready to go. So day after throwing. So what normally happens is day after throwing, you're going to lose a little bit of range of motion and a little bit of strength. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work to immediately restore that range of motion. So all of these bear crawl rotations and these hip bridges and crawls, these are going to challenge your ranges of motion and put the shoulder in some positions that it might not necessarily like the day after. Like for instance, this hip bridge reach and rotate, absolute classic by Zach Dakin. Just we're forcing the shoulder into a little bit of a shoulder extension, a little shoulder abduction, and we're just looking down, stretches the cervical spine a little bit with the look and the reach, and then we're getting there by moving the middle of the body, essentially, and the hands stay on the ground. I love it, okay? And so it's just going to be stuff like that we're going to do initially. And then skin the cat, elite ranges of shoulder extension, making sure that didn't disappear. Monkey holds, good serratus anterior action. Same with all these crawls. They involve a lot of serratus anterior. And so that's why we're doing them the day after, to check in on these muscles and making sure that our scapula and shoulder glenohumeral joint can function correctly. And we're going to regain this. And ER and IR, a lot normally goes away to some degree the day after throwing. So we're going to check in on that, make sure that we're building in, like we're bulletproofing the shoulder, just checking in and making sure that we have enough strength there, because a lot of guys tend to break down and have bad shoulder problems, if they don't have the necessary range of motion in IR, can't protract the shoulder and accept force, stuff like that. The split stance pec fly is just pretty much some hypertrophy because all the boys want bigger chests, and it helps with protraction and retraction as well if you allow those scapula to move along your rib cage. And then the super maximal rows, back of the shoulder needs to be strong. I don't think anyone doubts that for throwers. If you can't eccentrically lengthen the posterior shoulder, you're not going to have a great time. And then all of these overcoming isos for the wrist, a lot of guys tend to get super blown up in their forearms after they throw. And so any of these that makes you feel super sore, you should probably do them because you're going to recruit a lot of muscle fibers. You're going to potentially, if you do the antagonist, you're going to lengthen the agonist muscle. So for instance, if I'm really sore in my pronators, by doing the overcoming iso supinators, I am going to physically lengthen the pronating muscle. And all of this is just some super specific wrist training that you can do the day after. So maintenance. We're just going to check up on ROM and do some strengthening and tendon work. So we just want to maintain what we had, which is why we still have the same circuit up at the top we had day after throwing. But on this B block, what's going on is essentially on the unilateral depth drops, we're working to accept force, which is super important for long-term arm health. And then we're going to do some isos. So what the isos do is they are going to help essentially push blood flow towards the tendons and make sure that they're doing all right and that they're healthy. And if they're not, you're going to know pretty quick, because the beautiful thing about the isos is that they attack the weakest part of the chain.